Looking at the status quo today, we could but concur that democracy, as defined by Abraham Lincoln as the power as the government of the people, by the people, and for the people, has lost its preeminence. Moving on from power polarization and to coup d'etats, amongst others, it has become clear that power greed has become the talk of the town. Power greed, a political phenomenon that has over the years constituted a major plague to countries and leaving sometimes their effects and consequences to the people and to its surrounding at large. And then these acts are sometimes justified by logical reasons, which are seemingly logical, but sometimes they are not true. Welcome to today's show on the New World TV Info English. Today we are going to talk about the scourge of power greed. What is power at all? I think power is the ability to control people or things. And scourge, according to the Oxford Learner's Dictionary, refers to a person or a thing that causes trouble, difficulty, or mental pain. On the other hand, greed is a strong desire for more wealth, possessions, power, etc. than a person needs. And to say it all, power greed is the intense desire that a person has to acquire more power than is needed.
And also, I can also say that it's a situation whereby someone in power or someone who has authority has the excess desire to possess more than he already has especially with respect to wealth and power.
Sure.
Yes, of course, I agree with both of you. Now, Daniel defined power as the possession of control, authority, or influence over others. Now, there's a difference between authority and power, even though sometimes they are used interchangeably. Authority is the legal and formal right of giving orders or taking decisions, also commands. Thus, we can't have authority without power. We can't have authority without power. There are many ways of getting this power. Thus, one is through by appointment, depending on the domain you are working from. When you are opening a company domain, the government, your CEO has to appoint you and all those stuff. When you're working in the government domain, the government appoints ministers, then they go through the legal proceedings. That's the committee of parliaments. They have to go through vetting and all those stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And also, by this appointment, sometimes when the government appoints you, after you have gotten the position, you also have to appoint some people to work with. These are all two ways people can get power and authority.
And also, I think by election, whereby we give the people the power to vote, to select and choose their leaders or authorities they want them to take over them, to rule over them. So with this, especially in campaigns, we find out that some leaders or incoming leaders, they want to buy the vote of the people, so they make unrealistic promises and commitments, even to the extent of pounding for food for some of the citizens, giving out laptops and other things, just to buy the votes of the people. And when we continue to invest in them economically and politically for these greedy acquisitors.
Yeah, and Sandra, that's very correct. But I really believe none of these happens for no reason. I believe that there should be something, there is always something somewhere which kind of triggers the whole thing up. Because a logical, reasonable man would just make promises at first he believes he can't achieve. But then to begin with, I think one of the rampant causes is the desire to expand wealth, to expand territory. Because today you see presidents who, after their legal 2 mandates, okay, for example, in a country like Côte d'Ivoire, where each mandate is 4 years. Okay, so we had the current president, His Excellency Dr. Alassane Dramane Ouattara. Okay, after going for the 2 mandates, he amended the constitution, allowing him to go a third time. And you would ask yourself, does it mean you didn't fulfill what you promised us over the 8 years? Because the people gave you a second chance.
Sure.
Okay, and you still want a third chance. And I think it's just for selfish reasons.
Yeah. And another cause too, I think, is the fear of political rich hands. That's they're afraid that when they leave, people will be diving into their accounts, knowing the properties they've acquired since they were in office.
Yeah.
Some even so they just want to stick into power just to protect themselves, so that when you are in power and the news station is publishing something about you or making a news about, you can just block them due to the power you are still attaining and stuff.
Yeah, you still have that immunity.
Yeah, that's control. They just make a phone call.
Yeah.
Connections. You just call the IGP. The IGP will just go there and everything is settled in your name.
Yeah, and I think that's why most presidents, especially in Africa, sorry to say, they kind of want to die in power. That's the term we use. Okay, because they believe, let me do all the bad I want to do when I'm dead, and they talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
And also, I think one way they stick to power is their ideology and principles. Because let's talk of Adolf Hitler, okay, who was a German ruler from the year 1933 to 1945.
Yeah.
He had an ideology called the Nazism, where he wanted to conquer territories. And then he thinks that nobody can rule the way he rules.
Yeah.
So if he goes out of power and someone also comes into power, the person is not going to rule the people the way he wants. And let's see what his ideology caused to the whole world. He influenced the Second World War. So with this, some of the cause of the influences is the principles and the ideologies.
Yeah, I think so. And this ideology just don't just come up. It's based on their friends, the peers he's having around him, influencing him to have this. Some people are greedy for power, but they don't have anyone to lead them. Yes. So when you just bring your face up, they have to influence you with their ideas.
Yeah, and I think a very good example would be that still mentioning the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire, the former president Laurent Gbagbo, okay, after his mandate and after the elections, which according to some sources, he won, and according to some other, the elections were not fair. But at the time, this man wanted to step down, and guess what? His own wife was the one advising him to keep on fighting, and we saw what happened to that country in 2010, 2011. Yeah. Just because of that.
And I think another cause is to the influence from foreign powers. That's our colonial masters.
Sure.
Because sometimes, after the colonization era, some like Francophone countries, we have the France looking after them, we have the Anglophone countries too. Whereby sometimes when they are not getting what they want, they back up someone in their country to take what they want, and this results to power greed and all these kinds of stuffs.
Yeah. And also financial gains. Got some of these people that are already in power. Most of them is not because of they want to rule the people for just ruling's sake, but it's because of their own selfish gains. So you just want to have maybe financial gains, properties, lands and everything and other things in some other countries. Okay, so they buy properties, and you can testify to the fact that even in Ghana, some presidents, the relatives of some presidents, after they leaving power, their relatives were the richest.
Yeah.
So we can.
I think there is this president. I'm not really.
Mobutu Sese Seko.
President Mobutu. I heard even his daughter was
richer than the country.
When he was
can
you imagine that? But I think if we could have leaders who tend to be autocratic, who tend to be power greedy, but who are satisfying the needs of the people, I think that would be better to accept. A very good example is that of Gaddafi in Libya. He made, the oil free and all of those, and I think that's a very good example. If you think your form of leadership is a very good one, then let it benefit the country.
Yeah, but in power greed, for instance, if you stay long in power, if your regime is up and have to go and nobody, people term it as power greed.
Yeah.
But maybe I don't think everything should be termed power greed.
Okay.
Yeah, because you can take Jerry John Rawlings of Ghana, for instance. He came to power through coup, although which was illegal, but he was doing something good for the country.
Yeah, but don't you think that was just a means to compensate the picture he had already created?
I get you, though, but he was doing something good. You cannot basically just term it as power greed, was greedy for power.
Yeah, I think I agree with, but because he brought
reforms like
democracy and for the people to choose their own.
Because
though he came to power illegally, but he presented to the people democracy.
Yeah.
And Ghana is a democratic country.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think later too, nobody was owning any company. Companies were just owned by governments. They can, even if you build your own company, the government will take you from employ people in the company without your say or nothing. So it was also helping the country. Just that there was a few backslides. You know everything, people will still protest no matter how good the thing is.
Yeah, sure. And then what happens when this comes up? I mean, we've talked about the causes, the influences from, exterior countries, from external countries, and also from peer groups. When I mean peer groups, those in government. But do they actually think of what happens to the people? Because when you look at it from the bigger picture, not only the country that suffers from it, sometimes the neighboring countries get to suffer from it. And then when you are to focus on the country, I think that's where there will be more sponsorship on these quotes, that the rich keep on getting rich and the poor keep on getting poorer. Yeah. So I just want to think from the humanitarian point of view, do they actually care about what happens to people when they do that?
Some care, but not all. Because if I get into power, become a president, for instance, I'll be employing my relatives in bigger positions, as is currently happening in Ghana, the Kufuor government. Okay. Whereby most of his relatives are occupying big positions and all those, even in the judiciary system. But who are you to say anything? Now,
and not just the relatives. In some countries, when an Islamic president comes to power, you now notice that he kind of changes the entirety of those who work with him based on their religion. Yeah. So I think that kind of discrimination still goes on in politics, and that's
where
that's very
corruption
bad.
Comes in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's very bad for a country termed as democratic. And
but democratic breeds the power greedy people.
Yes, of course. Today we see power greediness or power greed mostly in democratic countries, and that's a very bad trait to see in a country termed as democratic. And Mahatma Gandhi, he said something. He said there are enough resources, to meet human needs, but not enough resources to meet human greed, and that's very deep. We can see today presidents, as rich as they are, they kind of still want more. They never want to step down.
Sometimes I don't blame them, because we use money to come into power. So after they are in power, they have to get their money back. Like as Sandra was speaking, he was saying they buy phones, laptops, pound food. They are using energy. They are using money. So most of the time when they come into power, I think they use 1 year to get all their money back. But due to greediness, they intend to accumulate more wealth. Like they will be giving projects and all those stuff, but instead of them to do the project, they'll be spending the money lavishly on hotels, going to trips on Dubai, and the most annoying thing to their kids will be doing all sort of nonsense in the country.
Yeah, and that's where you hear of them owing landed properties abroad. Even some of them completely forget sponsoring their own country.
Giving scholarships.
Yeah, giving scholarship and some of those beneficial things. And they send everything outside, and later we'll be there complaining that we are poor.
In our modern world, there are some honest way of coming into power, and there are strategic ways in which they come to power. So when they are coming, you don't know who is the one telling the truth, who is the one coming to steal from the people, who is the one who is coming to develop the country actually. So that is where the weak point from the people coming. So if they are coming into power, they do all these commitments, and they say a lot of lavish things, like they say a lot of promising words and stuff to make the people trust them. So that is where the problem of the people not trusting them coming. So when they come into power, then everything begins to change. So now we don't even believe or we don't even trust anyone who wants to even enter into politics or who wants to even become a leader, because we don't know who is actually coming to tell us the truth.
Yeah, I don't even so blame you, because we have in Christianity, there's a saying, do yours and let God take over. So if you vote for you and come and spoil the country, no one cares.
Actually, we care, because we are the people stuff. We are the vulnerable ones. So, dear viewers, just stay with us. We'll be right. Welcome back from the short break. If you just joined us, we were talking about the scourge of power greed. So moving on to the effect, some of the effect these things, the power greedy acquisitors cause to the people, the nation, and even globally. What are some of the effects these things cause to the people? So you can talk about these power greed people. No, most at times they detach themselves from some sentimental aspects of life. Like they don't even feel any pity, any love, any
consideration.
Yes,
if you
sure.
want. Yeah.
For people around them, they can cause anything that they don't think that it will have results or things that can affect other people.
Yes, and in psychology, that is best termed as they are best termed as psychopaths. They behave psychopathically.
But I think you should use some, because not all politicians are like that. Because in Ghana, for instance, Honorable Kennedy Japan, who has been in power for 16 years as MP for Assin North, is not just in power just because he's greedy for power. It's because the people want him to be in power, because he has been given scholarship and all those kinds of stuff. So you can say some politicians.
It is true. Let's say Honorable Kennedy Japan is like that. Mm-hmm. But to some other people, like the ancient or the historic name Joseph Stalin, who was the Russian president, I think I was reading a book, and then they made mention of he kissing a young girl in public. The girl thought he loved her, not knowing that he wanted to gain something from the girl's parents, and later he killed them. Oh. So this one, the girl, they don't have love, they don't have pity for anyone that loves them. Yes, sure. So if this person or the person in power wants something for him alone, do you think he thinks about the one beside him or the one that is next to him, what the person will feel about what he's doing?
Yeah, that's
and they even go to the extent of committing wars, causing wars, world wars and everything, mass murders and stuff.
But you
do
know,
they think about the people?
Some do not all, but you know the person wants power, so you do anything for power.
Yeah, and we have to already establish that power greediness or power greed is morally wrong. Yeah, it's morally wrong because you made mention of Kennedy Japan, but and even with Gaddafi, whom I kind of defended, I would like to make mention and stand on it that power greed is a very bad habit, because once the country has given you a chance to rule for maybe one mandate, let's say 4 years, and after that they re-elect you for 2 years for the second mandate, and then you now find ways and means to go a third time. You don't only make mockery of the country. You are kind of telling the people that I played you. You understand? And one thing they don't also know is that whilst they are doing these, the country is at risk. The country suffers, and that's where you get to see economic instability. Yeah. And a very good example is what is happening in Guinea right now. Personally, I would say that the coup is a very good one. Yeah, because.
But I think it's not a power greed coup.
Yes, it is not. It is not. I believe it is a coup that came in, to bring things in order. Because this president, changed or amended the constitution so as to rule a third time. And now you were allowed. But after he was voted in, what's happening?
The same thing.
Things are even getting worse. So if you listen to the declaration made by the one who led the coup, Lieutenant Colonel Doumbouya, okay, he said that the constitution is temporarily dissolved until further notice because it has been noticed that things are degrading. You understand? Sure. And so when they do all these things, sometimes they have to use the resources they are acquiring for the betterment of the country, but they don't. And this is another effect, economic instability. And when you made mention of a manslaughter and war. When there is war in a country, what do you expect? What do you expect? Nigeria today, when you talk about their money, yesterday I got to hear that right now it's I don't know how true it is, but yeah, it has been depreciating over the years. But I heard right now that it's almost equivalent to the CFA. And I was shocked. At the black market, they said when you want to change 1,000 naira, they will give you about 900 CFA, which wasn't so before. I mean, a few years ago, 10 years ago, or 15 years, when you're changing naira into CFA, you get about times 3 of it. But what's happening today? And when you look at the situation of the country, Nigeria is a very rich country. But what's going on on the inside? Things are not stable, and so the economy is suffering.
But let me chip in this thing. Can we say that all coup d'etats are a result of power greed?
Well, I think so. I think so.
No, I'm not sure.
So.
I'm not sure because if in a government, okay, if I see that this leader is not doing things right for the people, and I am a military man, I have my people backing me up. We can do something to move to eliminate the person from power because we know he's not doing the things right. And when I come in power, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm coming to take over till forever. Yes, so I think in a way it eliminates power greed.
When you take Africa for example, just in 2021, there's been about 5 coup d'etats already, and when you look at some of them, they always give reasons. That's why at the beginning I said some of these actions are sometimes justified. And sometimes you get to know that they are true, sometimes they are not. So even as I'm supporting the Guinea military for what they did, I can't really bet my life on it, saying that they did that with very good intentions. Another example, somewhere in February, there was this event at Myanmar, that's a country in Asia, in the Asian continent. So the military took over the civil government because over the years there was an agreement that, okay, let the civil government rule, but we too get to benefit from whatever comes in. And it got to a point where the civil government decided to take over everything. So they were no longer respecting the agreement. And so the military had to come in. That is a very good example of greed. Sure. So you are coming in because you are trying to fight for a right which in the first place you don't deserve.
But so can we say that always it's like military people that are they are greedy for power. It's always them.
Do you think it's always them?
Yeah, because most coups are done by military people.
Yes, but power greed is not only made manifest through coups. I beg your pardon. Because you just have amendment of constitution is a very good one and is also very rampant. Yeah, amendment of constitution just to extend your term. I mean,
yes, and also democracy as well, where Abraham Lincoln defines democracy as the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So the power is given to the people to select or choose their political leader. Then they give a term, let's say 4 years. In some countries, it's 4 years. Some countries, 8 years, and so on and so forth. So I think with this strategy or amendment, they elect or they choose who and when they want the person out of power.
Yeah, and I think this power greedy thing sometimes results in the massacre of people and all those stuffs. As I said, Mobutu Sese Seko, the president whereby his daughter was richer than the country when he was leaving power. I think he did a massacre in 19-something, which led to his overthrow by one of his chief of staff. And this, as I said, I made a statement earlier these schools are mostly organized by military people, and they always the people that are greedy for power. So when these power greedy people come to power, they'll do anything to stay in power, resulting in killing of innocent people, and sometimes even upon like you see them killing them, people will be saying like, hey, these people don't have any pity, don't they have any kind of like reaction? They're not humans. Don't think they will happen to them. And sometimes it's really painful to see them doing all these kinds of stuff.
Which
but these are some of the results.
The human rights violation,
abuse, sure. Yeah, because that when you have seized the person's right to live.
And the worst part is when a lot of these get to happen, those who suffer the most are the women.
Yeah,
I believe so. The women and the children. When you take the example of Afghanistan, for example, what is going on, what started a few months ago, you will see that those who are really suffering are the women. They easily get raped and no one speaks for them.
And I think during the reign of Jerry John Rawlings, during his coup, some of the soldiers were raping some of the women. That's what I heard. Sometimes they said when you are being guilty, if a minister you are guilty of certain things, when the soldiers come to your house, they will be raping your wife, your daughters, all kinds of nonsense too. And also Mobutu during his regime too was raping a lot of women because he is in power, came to power through coup, and he was also backed up by influential countries like Belgium and France. So you cannot do anything to him. You cannot do anything to the man. Yeah. So this thing, they tend to abuse anybody, anywhere, no matter who you are.
In talk of India and me, Ugandan president, a former Ugandan president, during his era, he also caused a lot of mass murders, economic breakdowns, human rights violation. He doesn't care about the people. But when he was coming to power, that wasn't his motive. He came with a new and a fresh face, with a clear mindset. But when he came to power, everything changed.
And by all means, there should be ways to mitigate this power greed, especially in our continent and by extension in the whole world. And personally, I would go for the military enforcement of the constitution.
Is it not the same military people that are doing these coups and all those
Yes, but I think they should be given a special power so that when they enact their authority, we see it as constitutional. Because you see them sometimes act because they want to defend the constitution. Like in Guinea right now. That's what they say. So I think if we should make it constitutional that when a president decides to amend the constitution, he should have limitations to the amendments. Okay, so probably take out the extension of mandate to a third one. Okay, just as Alassane did in Côte d'Ivoire and also with the president of Guinea. I think when the military sees such a thing, there should be a portion of the constitution that legally allows them to overthrow them or to literally kick them out. Right. And I think that would help solve this problem.
But if they are doing that, I don't think they'll abuse their power because mostly, even countries that are no cool, you see the military to be bad people, always doing all sort of nonsense. Last time you'll be working wearing a top of a military uniform and you come and just remove your top and all. Do you think? No,
I don't think that will be so. I don't think that will be so for a country which is yearning for development. And this era we are in this era we are in, I think if we should implement that, we should also let the military know when to do that. So they shouldn't misuse it. I think they shouldn't misuse it.
And I think one way to solve this problem is making things good for the country. That's for providing them proper employment rules and all those stuff. People that are supposed to go on pensions have to go on pension because one of this that's causing high rates of unemployment in most countries that people in pension are still working in government institutions. They'll go to hospitals and doctor will ask them for the age and they'll ask my football age or my real age because they know if they give their real age, that means they'll be sacked from office. So I think government should provide good employment policies and all those stuff, and also they should make sure you have good water, electricity. The people are living, things are not all that highly, but they should bring down to the middle and the lower class people, not to pay certain things in dollars and stuff.
And I think we should already commend the efforts of some of the organizations and some of the countries, such as the UN, who sometimes intervene or find ways to intervene in countries that are under attack or where the constitution is being tampered with. Recently, we heard of the exploit of the French government. Emmanuel Macron announced, I think 2 days ago or just yesterday, that the leader of the Sahel group of terrorists or presidents was killed. Okay, and I think that's a very good job, and we should commend that.
And like I had already said, talk of democracy, where we draw some limits to when they are supposed to be in power and when.
Thanks, lovely viewers, for staying with us on this another exciting episode on the Daily Trend Season 3 on the New World TV Info. You can follow us on YouTube under the New World TV, under the Daily Trend playlist, and also on Facebook. Bye-bye.